Well, I'm here, guys, to face the crowd, so to say, after my bit of a breakdown on my last live. I wasn't going to do tonight, to be honest, because I haven't really got much on my mind, and I'm just literally sat here preparing the calendar for July, and I've got 3 kids asleep in a one-bedroom, so it's actually quite difficult to work at night now. It was even harder to work when Dean was at home, so yeah, it's not easy to do lives at night the way that I used to do them from sort of like 1 o'clock, because Leon is asleep in the living room on the sofa mattress with the sofa cushions on the floor, and the 2 babies at the other side of this wall, literally just here on the double bed mattress on the floor because it's safer than being up. So I'm literally just sorting out with my health visitor and housing to get us the fuck out of here and trying to move, because this is crazy, and I really, really need to expand and get foundations and office space and work the way that I work best, and this isn't it, and I'm going to lose it with someone very soon. So before I do, and before people put a mental health fucking stamp on me, I thought that while actually I'm okay, that and I haven't got any particular significant dates that are about to attack me. And remember, it only tells me that one person is here. I can see that Amber is here because Amber is active on my Doodle thing, so it red things me because she subscribes and does all that stuff and notifications and all that bullshit social media stuff that I'm meant to talk about and promote, but I don't, because I'm not here to sell you in any way and drop shift you and, I don't know, breadcrumb teach you or box you up into different categories and programs, which I could do if you want me to, and I'm quite happy to do so. So if you want me to do stuff particular on sexual abuse trauma or domestic abuse trauma or emotional abuse trauma or any of these packages that people like to put you in, borderline personality, narcissistic traits, what do you want to do? Hang on, there's a whole spectrum, because mental health, which is what this week is about, and which is why I feel it's important that I do interject and talk about this particular subject, because I actually have a lot of internal, external education and experience, knowledge in this area that surmounts the majority of people's pay scales, if you want to call it that. And I feel that my own personal story and my own experiences through different chapters within my life with what's going on within the mental health is really, really valuable and really important to not only people that are being labelled and diagnosed, but people who are doing the labelling, diagnosing, and people who are working with people who are SOCA mental health practitioners underneath all of these different categories that basically is a DSM-5 that comes from America, and that's how you get your labels. So I do have a psychology degree, so I do feel that when it comes to mental health, that I could call myself borderline professional per se. I don't have my MA, I don't have my PhD. I have fulfilled all of these criteria. It's just that funding and shit as single mums going to university on benefits is just crazy. So, but actually, if you wanted to say how many degrees have I actually covered, then without the stamp, then you could say that I've covered, well, actually, if I say why I feel that my formal qualifications means that I can talk about mental health and talk about it in a grounding and standing. That means that I'm not just coming from a lay psychologist sort of point of view and mothers labeling and social media labeling that gets really, really mixed up and actually causes a lot of trauma to a lot of people and is used as a weapon and a tool, particularly something that I see in the field that I'm in, which is mediation in the family courts, which is what I've sort of been in for quite a long time prior to all of this anyway. So I see it used as a weapon between dads and mums, and people call people crazy and nuts and mad, and this is actually really, really, really dangerous because it causes for people to not want to come forward for having times of breakdowns because they will be perceived as mad, crazy, or something like that. And that's really dangerous because there are people out there that are genuinely going through some form of trauma or challenge or experience, and they don't want to be a burden or a drama or emotional baggage or any form of inconvenience to anybody, really. Nobody really ever wants to inconvenience anybody. I mean, we don't want to be inconveniencing anybody right now, really. We don't wake up every day and say, how can we inconvenience people, who are going to be late for their jobs because of what we're doing, who are going to be potentially ambulances that have had to take different routes because of what we're doing. Probably some fucking drunk they picked up off the floor, but potentially could be some child with leukemia who didn't actually make it to their chemo, which is probably a good thing for them. We probably saved that child's life, maybe. But, they didn't make the tram because of, somebody who decided to glue their hands to the tram. Fucking idiots. I am not responsible for the behaviours of anybody who ever decides to ever stand under the... Oh, my exes have started to wash up or something. Oh, they're up there. My knees are out at the moment because the laptop are on it. I'll get it back on in a minute. I've had a bath tonight, finally. I've finally fucking had a bath. I did have the most coolest shower at the hotel though, and it was absolutely beautiful, so I can't whinge. Anyway, my hair's doing me mental. I'm probably going to have so many different stupid styles over the next few months, guys, because my son's now has his apprenticeship at a very, very, very exclusive hairdressers, actually. So basically at the moment, I'm pretty much planning the calendar for July, and I have to seriously think about consequences of my actions as I do what I do, because there's a lot of people that are in my network that are under mental health, and a lot of these parents, a majority of them are parents, majority of them are mums, because obviously I'm a mum and I tend to work more with mums because obviously I'm a mum and I'm a woman, and that's not because I'm a feminist or anti-men or hate men. It's just that, when you're talking about such emotional things and trauma, it's easier for a woman to talk to a woman. However, I do actually, tend to run shoulder to shoulder with the dads as well. And as you know, from literally 2013 to 2015, there wasn't many mums on the front line anyway. It was predominantly fathers for justice, male dominated. A lot of women were not confident to take it to the streets at that particular point. Don't forget, this sort of stuff's been going on for fucking years. We're certainly not the first generation to take it to the fucking streets, for fuck's sake. This has been how it's been done for years. I mean, at one point it was on horses and rails with, proper doodahs. We're just doing it with this, with our truth, So we're saying no more. That's what we're basically saying. So under the mental health, I'm saying no more. As somebody who... Okay, let me list a little bit of a genealogy from dot to dot on why I feel I can talk about mental health. Okay, first of all, born to a mother just 15, just turned 16, father a bit older, removed as a baby. So straight away that would grant me the label of attachment disorder, which would be a proper label. It's something that has been used against me, and it would be official thing to put me under the Mental Health Act for the rest of my life, as it has done. Maybe I might have a breakdown on this. Back with mother and father at the age of 3, after being settled with grandmother, many issues with social care. Again, from this point, I have then been placed persistently under psychological assessmenting. First ever assessment done on me was at the age of 3. Remained with my father and my stepmother, and went to see my mother and her family every other weekend consistently until the age of 11. However, consistently during that time was sexually abused by my step-uncle on my stepmother's side, and therefore through the school have flagged up on many occasions throughout all sorts of appalling things, whether it be learning difficulties, whether it was what is wrong with this child, we don't know. Grew up being pretty much one of the only children to be growing up having 2 sets of parents, 2 sets of families, being a problem child within school, borderline for was I dyslexic, was I, as we now know, labelled and diagnosed Asperger's, was I a problem child, was I a gifted child, psychological report, assessment, psychological report, assessment, what is now classed as SEN all the way through school and education. Come to 11, I go into high school through what was classed in the gap where we went from 11 and straight into high school. I came out about this sexual abuse because I then ended up back in the high school with the perpetrator, and it was getting more violent, and then I started coming under different flags and stuff like that. Also had a matter with my mum and father where I was prone to kidnap and was put under some form of safe fuck whatever bullshit crap. And then 11 went back to what was called middle school. Now at this point I then had a tear run down my eyes to a program called Just Say No, and all of a sudden I had what's called child protection brought around me immediately. I was seen as articulate, knew what I was talking about, and was believed by the police. I was failed by child social services. I was also failed by my parents, but from this point I was put under psychological reporting and assessment all the way through school. At school I had to face many different encounters where many of these authority people used to identify me in front of my friends and face, and caused me many cases of bullying for being a special case child. I lived as a special case child throughout my high school years, changing from many schools up to 5 high schools, having private education while I was in foster care. I was placed in foster care when I was 15. At the age of 15, I sat under multi-agent meetings, I sat under LAC meetings, I sat under independent review meetings, I sat at the foster care meetings, I sat in other people's meetings, I sat with my foster parents. I still know my foster parents and I've known my foster parents ever since, and they live down the road. My foster mother teaches at the school, and my foster father actually won the award for for social worker of the year. He's gone from being a foster father in the time that he was with me and taking on his college courses and becoming a social worker throughout this time of taking on kids because they were considered radical foster carers that didn't quite obey, and were a little bit controversial. Rocket, for I won't say their names just here, they know who they are, and if you know who won the award in the year that I didn't rock it at Manchester, then that's my foster father, who was social worker of the year. He doesn't work in removals, he works with the youth, he works with the kids. So else gives me the qualifications to talk about mental health, and why do I feel that I can actually have an input into this from now being 15. So 15, I fell pregnant with my first child, and I had forced termination by social services, and that's going to bring a lot of emotion, so I will just... It's a very, 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 very raw subject. Very raw subject, more so since I've seen the paperwork after Aaron and Faith that I've never seen before, so it's a very raw subject. I then left foster care at 16 in 1 week, and I actually put myself into college and into a bedsit, and I worked for Taylor Plan as a cleaner, team aide and stuff at the Army hospital, and I worked in special and in mental health just as a cleaner, but I got to see a lot of obviously other sides of things, and obviously the army sites and things like that. So I got to actually spend a lot of time cleaning, talking, serving teas and coffees to many of the soldiers who had post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as having a husband who I met working there, who also had post-traumatic stress disorder from serving in Afghanistan at the age of 17. And he is the father to my other son, Liam, who, when I was 7 months pregnant, had what they called conversion disorder, but was actually connected to my physical condition that I have, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which has caused me a lot of problems with mental health, because obviously being a sexually abused child and from a dysfunctional family, I have never been believed for my physical condition, and it has always been put under the mental health. So I have sat under the mental health for years and years and years of my childhood, and obviously into my adulthood, and it's going to go on until eventually somebody speaks out about this bullshit, and I'm going to. So what they're doing is wrong, and it's time they caught up. I mean, when I was 19, I was placed into the Ridgewood in Frimley Green. My 7-month baby was taken off of my breast and removed from me, which is what many of you don't really know. I've already been through this. So yeah, so the first one they terminated, and then at 9 months old they sectioned me and took my son off me, but his father took him to his grandparents. I'm just listening out for my kids because Liam and the boys are asleep. So and it took me 13 weeks to be released, but in the time that I was there, obviously I was living with people of many, many, many different levels, and I will always say a saving grace to my friend Nathan, who kicked the shit out of the machine that he had just been put through, where they put all the electrode rods into your head and pretty much fry your brain for depression. He had had meningitis and was in a wheelchair and suffering from depression, and that's how they were treating it back then. And he saw whose name was on the list after, and he flipped out and kicked the machine and smashed it to pieces. And luckily they didn't have the funding to get another one of these machines for I don't know how long. But luckily I wasn't the next on the list, otherwise I wouldn't be here today. And many other people are still going through this. And it's still happening today. And people like Melanie Shaw and other whistleblowers are being held in mental health psychiatric units for speaking out about the paedophilia networks and child sexual abuse, and for telling the truth about people who didn't want people to believe them, and they have pretty much. I forgive the fact that I'm whispering. It's because I'm in a one-bedroomed house. It's not because of what I'm talking about. It's just I'm in a one-bedroomed house with my son asleep, and my two boys the other side. So I really need an office to do this stuff. So, but yeah, what was I saying? I lost track then because. But yeah, basically. We stand under two lines, historic and current, for the things that we've been aiming for. I suppose it's making people understand that it's a bigger problem that's got out of control, and it's become a crisis that has to be intervened on, that has to be pulled back and looked at, because the people that are working within it are not seeing the consequences of their actions. You know, it's a service that's asking people to see the consequences of their actions, but one, by whose standards, two, by whose authority, and three, by whose, you know, by whose ethics, values, beliefs, and morals and ethics, basically, because we all have free will to be who, do, what we are capable of being to our full potential. We all have the right to, you know, live to our full potential, to thrive. We're not here to survive. You know, we're not here to be in depression, to be suppressed, dogma, to be told what we do, what time we get up, when we do this, when we shit, when we breathe, when we can take our breaks, when we can have a fag break if we're a smoker, you know, when we can have a deadline, do this. That wasn't the way we were created to live. That isn't us living in our true gifted energy creativity zone. And I'm not even going to touch on what I'm hearing from certain networks when they want to talk about like flow and stuff like that, and free energy and free spirit. I'm not even getting into that sort of fairy stuff. I'm talking about, you know, the line between when people are causing trauma to people to when people are causing trauma to themselves, and when people are born with, and mental health need to be careful because they're putting people under this label that isn't what would be defined as mental health. You know, Asperger's autism is not mental health. It's a gift. And even your own definitions define it, and it's not a learning difficulty. And learning difficulties are not mental health. So you need to realise that, one, mental health is about the only thing that we focus on the solution. We're not talking about mental dis-ease, we're talking about mental health. So it's good that we all ultimately want to achieve full balance and mental health, and that's what we should ultimately be achieving, true actualization, if we want to go under like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or go even deeper, or, you know, how deep down that rabbit hole do you want to go, true ascension. You know, it's my first day of university. The tutor got us to stand up if we believe in God, angels, or anything that was faith that couldn't be seen. And he completely, not in a good way, but smashed it, as in to sort of say, you're all under the mental health bracket, right? I have always had people call me for having conversations in my head, and I do. I have done all my life. I've walked down the streets having whole fucking characters that go on in my head. I always have. I've always been the person who sings and dances, and I'm quite happy to roller skate down the road, singing, dancing, headphones. I don't have any issues with being myself or confidence or anything like that. When people see my head flick, by the way, it's my neck going, if you want EDS Awareness Month. So, like, doesn't sit on the screwball properly. It's like, wobbly dobbly. So, basically, psychology and reason and spirituality don't intertwine, but you can't have mind, body, and soul that to be a whole person. So you can't separate mind, body, and your soul and spirit. Some people will say soul is spirit, and some people will say that soul and spirit is the definition between your subconscious and your unconscious. I believe the same. You know, I believe it's the same, that we go through. The fucking hair's doing my nutting. But I've got hair bubble. Yes, I've got a hair bubble. Fantastic. I believe the same, that literally that we go through spirit into soul, or soul and spirit, whichever way. I'm not really thinking about that right now, but I'm probably going to do my head in now and just pull my hair down again, aren't I? So, and you can't have a method of working with somebody in the way that the mental health system does when you can't work holistically with the person. And you can't work holistically with a person when you don't take all factors into consideration. And all psychology is doing is what I call putting plasters over gangrene, and repeatedly putting plasters over gangrene. And this is something that I've always had a problem with, masking problems, and they're not there to counsel you. So this is then when counsellors come in. So this is where it becomes so fragmented, because a psychologist is the one who so will basically ask you the systemic questions on the balance of probability and all this stuff, run by a medium Meridum, and done on a statistical analysis that you put through SPS data, that basically look at a sample of 100 people, and out of those 100 people, because that's all they get the budget for, then, on a balance of probability, then if therefore you were sexually abused, therefore you will be a sexually abuser, is one of them, pretty much probably asked on a sample of people who were abused and not on a balance of 50-50 in a large sample. So, it's flawed from day one. So, and out of this comes things like borderline personality, bipolar, schizophrenia, depression. Right, I'm here. Please do. Please, just in the comments down here, if you are seated or feel that you have been seated under the mental health bracket and you have been given any form of diagnosis, please do write in the comments what diagnosis you have been formally diagnosed with. I can tell you mine here now, that when Aaron and Faith were taken, I was diagnosed with borderline personality comorbid with Asperger's, and traits of narcissism, grandeur, and I think that was it. And then obviously my medical diagnosis is on top of that. So if you've ever had anyone say that you have suffered from depression, anxiety, stress, mental health, but don't really know what that actually stands for or means, or what category you've been put in, or I'm trying to remember the list. I could probably actually pull it up. So let's pull up all of the diagnoses that you were given under the mental health. Let's do this. Mental health No, so my computer's so slow at the moment because I'm still running the Bitcoin thing. But I've got to get other people to do it in order to actually, do some mining, and I'm not really sure whether I trust it yet to ask people to do it. So I'm just sort of seeing how it goes. Anyway, so common. Oh shit! I just laughed. I was probably broke myself. Sorry. Let me just spell that correctly. So, just on Google at the moment, so I can't actually see you. Types of mental health problems. Let's try this one. So I'm currently on mind.org.uk, and it's saying types of mental illness. If you've been diagnosed with a mental health problem, you might be looking for some information on your diagnosis, treatment options, where you go for support. So here we go. Anger, anxiety and panic attacks, bipolar disorder, body dysmorphia disorder, known as BDD, borderline personality disorder, which actually has been changed to emotional something, depression, dissociative disorders, drugs, recreational and alcohol, eating problems, hearing voices, hoarding, hypomania and mania, loneliness, mental health problem introduction, compulsive disorders, panic attacks, paranoia, personality disorders, phobias, postnatal depression, perinatal mental health, post-traumatic stress disorder, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, psychosis, seasonal affective disorder, schizophrenia, seasonal affective disorder, self-esteem, self-harm, sleeping problems, stress, suicidal feelings, and Tardive Jenkinson's. Wow, okay. So, just coming back again. Back again. Dyslexia is what I'm saying. It's not a mental health, it's a learning difficulty. So it doesn't come under mental health, it comes under learning difficulty. And that's just a reply to Amber on comments, especially if you're over on YouTube. And YouTube, it doesn't show people interacting and stuff like that. So anyway, as we're talking about mental health, who's here? And it says to me that I have 3 people here, and I have no idea how many people are watching. So if you're here and you don't mind, just making yourself aware, it'd be really good to see who's here, who's still up, who I'm talking to, who's watching, and help me see, whether it's worth carrying on talking, and if you've got any questions about mental health, because I can carry on about training in terms of, here we go, from college. I went to college, remember? Oh, I actually did business studies and law, and I did my maths and English again because obviously social services. And then obviously I went straight to child psychology, I went into criminology, I went to sociology, into psychology. I did my BSc honours in criminology and psychology. I did my BSc in psychology. I did my degree in applied in BSc honours psychology, which covered pretty much everything from child psychology, criminal psychology, social psychology. I had about 30 modules, so everything from drug rehabilitation all the way through to CBT therapy, whatever, wherever it's a degree. It was a BSc honours, so, and I passed, so, and I graduated, so that's what I've got. The psychologist that took my kids didn't like it, so, and a lot of people don't like it when you say psychology because they think you're always analysing them. I think the degree is shit. So, I also did counselling skills, CBT therapy, timeline therapy, I've done my training with the Coaching Academy, with Nightingale Connaught, with Jack Canfield, with Tony Robbins, Train the Trainer, all within the therapy unit. I've done everything from holistic healings, naturopathy, alternative therapies. Studied with the wise. I've studied with, yes, I have met Dalai Lama. I've studied with many of the wise Buddhists through Kadampa, many people through Catholicism, many through CAV, whatever, I think, different religions, Hare Krishna. I've pretty much gone through most of the spiritual paths. I've even gone to Ghost Hunters Nights and spiritual paths, because when you create Step Up Britain, you pretty much have to go into all paths anyway, because you can't look at a map of Great Britain and not take into consideration that people are bringing in the halam and, you know, all of these different things, and what's going on with the Polish and culture, and how we as a British did actually say that we were going to be open to multicultural, and then all of a sudden it's happened and people don't like it, so it's your own fault, you know what I mean? You know, have a bit of common sense. So, and come on, you know, stop bombing people, and then they don't have to leave their countries, help them build infrastructures in their own countries. They don't want to leave. Everybody just wants to travel the world and appreciate everybody else's cultures. And was it ever really British in the first place? But anyway, I have a meeting on tomorrow at 7 o'clock. I've just had a thing pop up for Bitcoin, how to invest in the future of money. So it's that, watch a documentary of a girl who had 7 people at her worst, was 7, can't see the whole comment. So yeah, anyway, it's Mental Health Awareness Week, but also on my crack book, I'm covering Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome Awareness Month, which is the month of May. I do my social media around particular calendar dates and things like that. So I'm literally just constructing the July awareness for forced adoption exposed, but also coinciding it with Step Up Britain, to bring out a couple of things, because I'm trying to bring, as you know, I've got my ankles seriously killing me as I'm talking about EDS, and I'm probably going to do another little bit of an EDS awareness shindig, because I've got to straighten my legs. Liam's been off, he's buggered his ankles and rollerblading as well. Seriously, my feet hurting. So anyway, basically, one of the other reasons that I really need to connect mental health with what I stand with the whole Red X stuff, with obviously everything else and everything that we've been co-creating with a lot of different people over the space and time, that obviously I've broken my gags, and other people that have been doing things that have been going on for a long time, that have just been small amounts of different pockets of people that basically over the long time. So if you imagine like maybe use moles, okay, so let's use, oh sorry, I've just, so if we use moles as an example, and if you go into a cow field, you often find moles places, because they can get out easier, because cows got hoofs and stuff like that. So anyway, you get moles in cows places. So if you imagine a field of like lots of different mole places, and there's been lots and lots and lots and lots of different campaigns and things all coming together, all at, you know, lots of different times. And some of these campaigns have been going on sort of 30 or so years, because don't forget, it wasn't actually that long ago that we had like World War II, so you weren't out campaigning. We really are quite baby in the human race than you could ever really imagine in the whole scale of the planet. Now, as you know, I do what I do, and one of the reasons I do this is because we really do have about 13 years to, not even 13 years, we have about, potentially, winter might not come this year. Like, we might not actually ever have a white Christmas in the UK ever again until this happens. And when we do, it's going to come, and that's it. But we, as the human race, have fucked up, like, massively. Like, we really fucked up for our future generation, and we have to take it on the chin. Like, we fucked up economically, we fucked up socially, we fucked up the education system, we fucked up how we work, we fucked up how we communicate with people, we fucked up relationships, we fucked up family values, we fucked up society, we fucked up our youth. We, all of us, we are, there's no blame, no shame, there's no, we are not saying to anybody that any person is at fault or blame or shame. We're saying that this information that has all become apparent through religion and science finally coming together. And we're basically saying that if we don't look up ship sharp and get our own homes in order and get our own integrity and truth back intact, that we, the human race, are going to get wiped the fuck off this planet, because we're not significant enough to this planet to do anything. Robots are taking over. You can't go and ring a phone now without it going through a computer. Even benefits is going online. Shops are going on to tills. Banks are online. Sweeper to clean the sweets now is a button and somebody walks with it. Everything is going over to technology. We, the human race, for the insignificant jobs. And you know, they're basically selling it to you in this package that's going to give you more time to do what you want to do, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately what it's doing is depleting any form of skill that you need to provide to this planet. So, and like I say to people, I can trample over a whole field of plants and it will grow back. It really will. And whatever you think of us maddeners out there, there is shitloads of corruption going on in this country, and not just this country. It links to not just MPs and parliaments, it links to gangs, it links to guerrilla people, it links to freaking people who just want to, you know, have terrorist stuff. And I just want my kids to be able to be themselves. I just want to live in an environment where my kids are safe to explore, to be where they want, where I don't have to worry all the time about what somebody might say or do. That I feel that I have to slam dunk you because you're going to influence the environment that my child is in, and I don't want that education to be honey on a stick and chocolate on your fingers and think it's not going to happen when you mess around with things that are going to smear on you. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want that influence. And one of the biggest problems that we have in our youth is foster care kids, and they are enticing. This is another problem that I'm finding, by the way, that Foster care kids are even enticing other foster care children to make false claims against their parents because they can go into foster care and hang around at the park at night because the foster carers don't give a shit about them. And, you know, all this system is doing is creating and breeding a whole world of mental health because it makes money. As soon as you get a diagnosis, they can capitalise on more money, and then you end up being a product which you're not paying. Ask why you're not paying for any of your mental health services, because if you come to me, do you know what my fees are? And why you're not paying for them if I go and work for the NHS or anything like that? Come on, think about it, seriously. I'm not qualified to prescribe medication because I'm not a psychiatrist. So then you've got that side of things. And to be put into these units, I mean, come on, I was only actually sectioned, nearly 18 months ago or so, and I went into St James's. What an appalling, appalling place to put somebody under trauma. I've noticed that I've been on for 46 minutes, and I'm actually trying to keep a lot of these mental health ones really short. So I just wanted to come on to say that, you know, I didn't do a mental health video on Monday because obviously I just got back from London with the guys, and a fun time that it was. And the message that I delivered to Mothers Rising and everybody else that was involved was, don't ask our children what they want to be when they grow up. Just let them be who they are, and you'll never know. They may be artistic, dancers, musicians. They may have some form of service in the world that we really need right now. And too many youth right now are growing up being labelled with ADHD and all these different mental health conditions when really they're just being battery hen caged kids in cages in a classroom, listening to somebody who didn't even live, somebody who's just gone from a cage in a cage with maybe 2 weeks away doing a couple of little things, and might have even got to actually travel during a bit of a gap year and has gone straight back into a fucking cage again. And there's a whole world outside there, I promise. Really, I promise. Trust me, people. Seriously, trust me. You were born. I'm going to do this before I leave, I'm sorry, but you were born from your mother's womb or your mother's thing. And she put you in her arms and she either shoved the buckle or she put you on a tip. Either way, it was only for probably a few weeks, maybe a few months. But these teeth at the back here actually say that you can feed up to the age of 8. Society makes us feel really shit about absolutely natural living, okay? We are suppressed, we are brainwashed, we are colonized, we are systemized, we are radicalized, and we are ismed and labeled and categorized and put in boxes. And you only know this, and you don't know anything outside that because you've never been shown it. You believe that that's for other people, and it's not wrong that you believe that. That's just what you've been bred to believe. And we are here to show you that you've been systemized, and it's okay, and you can breathe now, and there is a better way, and all you gotta do is take off the labels. Number 1, get rid of the medications. Breathe and just say it's okay, to not be okay, and sometimes we go through traumas, we face emotional turbulences, we sometimes don't understand the situations that we're in, sometimes people do things that really make us annoyed, and it's okay to be angry. It's okay. It really is. It's okay to tell someone you're a fucking cunt. It's okay to say, it's okay to really fucking be annoyed with something. It's just okay. What's not okay is not taking consequences of any actions that you caused during that time of anger and who you caused and express that to. That's not okay. And it's okay to have moments where and everything just feels a little bit and systems glitching, and you feel like maybe there's a bit of a sliding door and a little bit anxious. Do you know what I mean? So just breathe in here, get out here, and just breathe. And it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to be in what people call a state of anxiety. It's okay to glitch. It's okay to system meltdown, so per se. There's many conspiracies that are going to probably take some of these little things and go, see, we've got evidence that it's a technology world now. But basically, it's okay to have down days, and do you know what? You big boys out there, men, and to the girls, but to the men, because they've had a really, 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 really hard time with it for many, 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 many years. They've taken more beatings and more sticks and more belts than us girls will ever probably ever know about most of the men that we ever know. And many of them have suffered anal penetration through schools and monasteries and Catholic Church, and many of you wives and girlfriends will never know, because the majority of the male species in our universe were brought up to not cry, to not show emotion, to not be okay, and to be men and big boys. And if you did express within this time, which never really has particularly gone away, we've probably gone a bit too feminised and camp now with our boys, and probably a bit too the other way, do you know what I mean? But they don't need whipping and stickings and beatings. That pretty much everybody from my gender, my gender, God, I've been doing so much gender, but I'm talking about the males because I spent more time with boys. But from my age and back, for probably 4 or 5 different generations, big boys don't cry. Stop that crying. Toughen up. We stop that snivelling, alright, yeah. Shut up or I'll hit you. Do you know what I mean? And it's been like that. And girls didn't necessarily get that. Boys did. Girls got the cleaning. Boys got the whipped upside the head. So we have created a much higher rate of suicide in males than in females. And girls, that's just the way it is. Women are open to talk. We talk to each other. We can express. We can rant. We can be a bit more. Men, it tends to get a little bit more. So they don't tend to sort of go there. They don't tend to have the place to express themselves. And even if you do go to services, it does tend to be mixed orientated. And it's only more recently that males have become nurses. And people are still shocked that men are nurses. Males have obviously become mental health workers. Male has tended to always be male in dominating the doctor's world, and obviously more females are coming through for the women. But yes, it is okay to cry. it's okay to break down, and it's okay to feel pain. It's okay to feel something that you don't understand, and it's okay to feel emotions that you don't associate with yourself, because you can't accept the polarity within yourself that we're not all really good people, and sometimes we do bad things, and we are sinners, and sometimes we don't always want to accept the other side of ourselves that is capable of doing things that we feel shameful or embarrassed or guilt, or even to feel, jealousy can feel sometimes wrong. But the quicker that we remember that yin and yang, we've all seen it, black, white, balance, and we accept that we live in polarity, the quicker that we can live in balance within harmony within ourselves and be okay with everything going on here and here. And that's something that mental health practitioners can't deal with, because they can't deal with your spiritual and your mental and your physical, and all these agencies are so fragmented that they want to deal with your counselling, your psychotherapy, and it's all these different things in order to try to put one person together, when if you imagine it, so in order to deal with, to be me under the mental health, you have to imagine me as one person. In fact, I've got a really good example right here. Okay, I've got this. So, got a broken one here. So, if you imagine literally every one person, and you've got to imagine that's wrapped around me, as an individual, that, every person, from the person you pick up the phone call to say help to, that you feel that you need to talk to somebody, whether that's the receptionist on the desk, to then going to the doctors, to booking in with the doctors, for the chatting to the doctors and only getting 5 minutes, who will then tell you you've got depression and give you some antidepressants and probably refer you to somebody, that you won't speak to somebody for probably 2 or 3 months. Then you'll be referred to a psychotherapist, who will then probably refer you to somebody else, who will refer you back to a mental health worker. Well, majority of people have either slashed their wrists, taken an overdose, goodness knows how many times, and woken up every day still dealing with the same shit. I've been here 57 minutes and 34 seconds, so I'm going to go straight to 1 hour and in full, and that's it. And that's my point, that in order to work with somebody on your mental health issues, you will literally be referred to somebody for an hour, and in that hour they will be clock watching, that they have 10 minutes overtime to be able to overlap themselves with other clients. I will be focused on the fact now that I have to do this to make it an hour. I would have probably already got you out of the room at probably 1:45 this time, and chances are you would have probably have only got into my room and settled down, and probably 20 minutes in. In order to get to the root of somebody's trauma, you've got to really get to know somebody, or be somebody like me who can see at the moment I step into your focal vision. They think that autistic people don't have empathy. We're actually empaths, and it's just a little bit difficult because it overwhelms us with so many different people's energies. Living here is a nightmare. I need to live in a fucking field with nobody around, you know what I mean? I'm now looking back over at the clock, 1 minute to go. My point is that the way that I've worked with people is I can sit with them for 3 or 4 days on a park and really, really get to the core. I'm going to rush you just to prove a point and cut out deliberately. So just as we're getting into our therapy and you're starting to really open up and trust me, and you're just starting to really bring that emotion and feeling out, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to say, well then guys, I will see you next week. And you're going to go home and go and deal with all of that and get on
with your day. So this is why I like going to immersions and dealing with it over 3 days where we'll completely rip that shit out of you. But all this week, as us coaches are going to be here talking to you about Mental Health Week.